Craving isn't the same as commitment, and this is where so many people get hurt. You meet someone who lights you up, someone who can't seem to get enough of you. They send the good morning texts, the late night "I miss you" messages. They look at you like you're the only person in the room. You feel this chemistry, this intense gravitational pull that feels too powerful to be fake. And in those moments, you tell yourself this has to mean something real. It feels too good, too exciting, too electric to be anything else. But here's the truth. Someone can crave you with every fiber of their being and still not be ready to actually choose you. Craving is emotional. It's impulsive. It was the surge of dopamine when they hear your voice or see your name pop up on their phone. Commitment, on the other hand, is rational. It's deliberate. It's a decision made in the sober moments of life, not just the passionate ones. Craving is about the feeling they get when they're around you. Commitment is about their willingness to build something with you even when life gets messy, inconvenient, and complicated. A man can crave the way you make him feel. He can crave your smile, your body, your laughter, the way you understand him when the world doesn't. He can crave your light, especially if he's living in darkness. He can want to bask in it, soak it up, consume it. But craving your light and protecting it are two different things. Someone who craves you might not yet be someone who knows how to cherish you, nurture you, or show up for you in the ways that truly matter over time. And here's the part that so many people don't want to hear because it's painful. Craving is selfish. It's about their needs. It's about the feeling they get from being near you. It's about the thrill, the high, the ego boost. It's about escaping their loneliness or their insecurities or their boredom. It's about the hole inside of them they hope your attention can temporarily fill. Commitment? That's selfless. Commitment says, I want to love you in a way that's good for you, not just good for me. It says, I'm willing to prioritize your heart, your needs, your dreams, even when it requires sacrifice, patience, and hard conversations. Commitment isn't just about loving how you make them feel. It's about loving you enough to show up consistently, even when the initial rush wears off. That's why you can't get caught up in the excitement of being craved. Craving can feel intoxicating. It makes you feel wanted, special, alive. But if you mistake that craving for real intention, you can waste months, sometimes even years, stuck in a cycle of waiting, hoping, doubting, second-guessing yourself. You keep thinking, if he feels this way about me, why isn't he choosing me? Why is he silent? Why isn't he fighting for this? Because feeling something isn't enough. Wanting someone isn't enough. At some point, you need someone who doesn't just feel you, but chooses you. Not when it's convenient, not when they're lonely, not when they're drunk texting you at midnight, but every day with clarity, consistency, and commitment. And here's the other truth. If someone truly wants a future with you, they don't risk losing you. They don't play silent games. They don't leave you in emotional limbo, wondering where you stand. They don't say one thing and do another. If someone is craving you but still going silent, it's not because they're confused about how they feel in the moment. It's because they're unsure about what they're willing to give. You deserve more than someone who only shows up when the craving strikes. You deserve someone who is there even when the craving isn't loud. Someone who shows up on the boring Tuesday mornings, the stressful Thursday nights, the moments when life feels heavy and exhausting. You deserve someone whose actions match the intensity of their words. Someone who doesn't just love the best parts of you, but is willing to stand beside you when the real parts show up too. If you focus only on how much someone seems to want you, you'll miss the far more important question. What is this person willing to do for me? Actually move on. Are they willing to communicate consistently? Are they willing to make room for you in their life? Not just when it's easy, but when it requires effort. Are they willing to take the relationship out of the fantasy phase and into the reality of building something meaningful, something sustainable. Craving is cheap. It's easy. It's the starting line, not the finish line. The real test isn't how much someone feels about you in a fleeting moment. It's what they're prepared to build with you over time. And maybe he does crave you. Maybe he thinks about you when he wakes up. Maybe he talks about you to his friends. Maybe he feels something profound every time he hears your laugh or sees your name. But if all that feeling isn't turning into action, if it's not turning into communication, effort, plans, and commitment, then what good is it doing you? Love without action is just fantasy. Craving without commitment is just noise. Tension without intention will break your heart if you let it. So don't measure someone's love for you by how much they seem to want you in the heated moments. Measure it by how much they choose you in the quiet ones. The moments when no one is watching. The moments when it would be easier to stay silent, to hide, to drift away. But instead, they show up. They call. They choose you. Because real love doesn't whisper when it matters most. Real love speaks loudly, clearly, and without apology. Even when a guy is totally into you, even when he craves you more than anything, there's a reason he can still fall silent. And it's not because he doesn't care. It's not because he's lost interest. It's because fear, that old familiar enemy, steps in and takes over. Fear of vulnerability, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough, it freezes him. You see, craving someone is emotional. It's wild, it's messy, it's instinctual. But taking action on that craving, stepping up, putting yourself on the line, that requires a certain emotional courage not everyone has at the moment they feel the craving. When he stays silent, it's often not a sign of apathy. It's a sign that somewhere deep inside, he's terrified. Terrified of what happens if he gives you all that he's feeling and it's not enough. Or worse, he gives it and you don't want it. That fear can be paralyzing. Think about it. How many times in life have we all craved something desperately, but hesitated to go after it because the idea of being rejected was too overwhelming? Sometimes the stakes feel so high that the risk of failure becomes unbearable. For a lot of men, especially ones who have been hurt before, silence becomes a shield. It's a way to avoid putting their heart on display. It's safer to stay back, to admire you from afar, to imagine what could be without having to confront the brutal possibility that they might not be enough for you. And in his mind, he's thinking, if I don't say anything, I can't lose. I can't be rejected if I never put my heart out there. But here's where it gets tricky. His silence doesn't only protect him from rejection, it protects him from responsibility. Because when you stay silent, you don't have to show up. You don't have to commit. You don't have to do the work of building trust, being consistent, proving your intentions. Silence becomes a place where craving can exist without consequence. That's why you have to be so careful not to mistake craving for commitment. He might feel a huge gravitational pull toward you, but until he finds the courage to act, until he steps through his fear and risks his heart, none of that craving matters. It's not about what he feels. It's about what he's willing to do with what he feels. And it's not always obvious. He might send you small signals, little looks, half-hearted texts, fleeting conversations where you feel the electricity buzzing underneath. But then he disappears again, retreating into silence because the idea of moving closer feels terrifying. He might tell himself stories like, she probably has someone better, or what if she realizes I'm not as great as she thinks I am? That self-doubt isn't your fault, and it's not your job to fix it. You might be tempted to reach out, to reassure him, to do the heavy lifting of pulling him out of his fear. But the hard truth is, if you have to drag someone into choosing you, you're going to have to drag them through the entire relationship. That's not love. That's emotional babysitting. You deserve someone who feels the fear and moves toward you anyway. Someone who says, yes, I'm scared. Yes, I could get hurt. Yes, she could break my heart. But she's worth it. Because real connection isn't fearless, it's courageous. The irony is, the longer he stays silent, the more he reinforces his own fear. The story he's telling himself that he's not enough, that he'll mess it up, that you'll walk away, it becomes stronger every day he doesn't act. And eventually craving turns into regret. Silence becomes loss, and neither of you wins. Now, you might ask, if he's scared, shouldn't I be more understanding? Compassion is beautiful. Compassion is essential. But compassion doesn't mean putting your life on hold, waiting for someone to find the strength you need them to have today. You can have empathy for his fear without letting it determine your future. Because ultimately, a relationship can't be built on potential. It has to be built on action, on someone choosing you actively, not passively wishing for you in the quiet corners of their mind. A man's fear is his to confront, his journey, his growth. You can't walk that path for him, and you shouldn't try. When someone craves you but stays silent, it's easy to romanticize it. Easy to think, he must feel so much that he's overwhelmed. And maybe that's true, but don't let yourself fall for potential energy. You deserve kinetic energy. Love that moves toward you, that shows up for you, that says, through actions, I'm here, I want you, I'm willing to risk my heart because I see something extraordinary in you. Silence might protect him, but it leaves you exposed. It leaves you wondering, doubting, questioning your worth. And the longer you entertain the silence, the more you start to internalize the idea that your love, your presence, isn't enough to draw him out. But that's a lie. His silence says far more about where he is on his emotional journey than it ever says about your value. It's not your fault he's afraid. It's not your fault he's silent. And it's not your responsibility to wait around hoping he figures it out. You are not meant to be an unsolved mystery for someone too scared to open the book. You are meant to be a beautiful, vivid story, one that someone can't wait to dive into, even if it terrifies them a little. The truth is, if he craves you but stays silent, it's because he hasn't yet found the courage to match his craving. And you deserve someone whose actions are louder than their fears. Choose the one who chooses you, even when it's scary, especially when it's scary. Let's talk about something that you might have noticed in your own relationships, or maybe you've heard other people talk about it. That moment when he craves you, but stays silent. He's not texting, calling, or showing up when you expect him to. You can feel the pull, the attraction, the chemistry between you, but the silence lingers. And it leaves you wondering, if he wants you, why is he holding back? Let me tell you something. It's not that he doesn't feel something, it's that silence often means something deeper than just not knowing how to communicate. It's easy to assume that silence means disinterest or that you're being ignored. You might think, well, if he really wanted me, he'd be making the effort, right? And in many ways, yes. But here's where it gets interesting. Sometimes that silence is his way of testing the waters, not testing you, but testing the dynamics between you both. Think about it. How often have we heard people talk about the chase, right? The thrill of pursuing someone, of capturing their attention. And while you might think that's something men do because they want to win you over, the reality is a bit more layered. Sometimes men crave the chase as much as you might. But here's the thing. He's not just testing you. He's testing the dynamic, the power balance between you two. He's waiting to see how you'll respond, how much effort you'll put in. He's waiting for you to take the first step, make the move, or give him a sign that you're just as invested in this connection as he is. Think of it this way. It's not necessarily about whether or not he likes you, because he likely does. It's more about how he perceives the balance of power in the relationship. You see, we all have these subconscious tendencies when it comes to relationships. We want to feel wanted, but we also want to feel like we have control over the situation. And in some cases, silence can be a way for him to check if you'll take the lead. The more he can remain in a position where he feels like he has some control, the more he can sit back and see if you're going to make the effort to draw him in. He doesn't want to be the one who's always chasing. He wants to know if you're willing to put in the energy to chase him too. But here's the kicker. This can lead to an unhealthy cycle if you're not aware of what's happening. If you're constantly the one putting in the effort, you end up in a position where you're emotionally over-invested and he's barely putting in any effort at all. That creates an imbalance where you're doing the chasing and he's just coasting. Eventually, it can leave you feeling confused, frustrated, and wondering why he's not showing up when you need him to. Now, let's take a step back and really think about why this happens. In many cases, the reason he pulls back into silence isn't about a lack of feelings for you. It's often a fear of vulnerability. I've seen it time and time again. A man who deeply craves connection but holds back because he's afraid of getting too close, of being hurt, of being rejected, or of not measuring up. You know that saying, the more you care, the more vulnerable you are? For some men, this is terrifying because vulnerability means letting go of control. It means opening up to the possibility of disappointment, rejection. You see, silence in a man's behavior can often be misinterpreted as indifference or lack of interest. But the truth is, there's something far deeper at play here. We live in a world that constantly demands more of our time, our attention, our commitment. So when we're met with silence, especially from someone we care about, it can send us into a spiral of confusion. But here's the thing. Silence is often not a reflection of how he feels about you. It's a reflection of what's going on in his life, in his head. A lot of people think that when someone goes silent, it means they've lost interest. They assume that if a man really wanted you, he would be chasing after you with relentless energy. But let me tell you, that's not always the case. Sometimes he's not silent because he's not interested. He's silent because there are other layers of complexity in his world that are demanding his attention, and he's just not ready to share those things with you yet. When a man goes quiet, one possibility is that he's dealing with something in his own life that's far bigger than the current dynamic between the two of you. He could be juggling stress from work, handling issues in his personal life, or perhaps even struggling with his own insecurities or fears. Men are often taught, either through society, their upbringing, or their personal experiences, to compartmentalize. We're conditioned to believe that showing vulnerability or admitting that we're struggling is a sign of weakness. So instead of talking things out, we bottle it up. And that right there is why silence can feel so unsettling. It's not that he doesn't want you. It's that he can't fully show up for you while he's still fighting battles you don't even know about. You might think you're on the receiving end of silence because he's lost interest, but more often than not, he's simply in a place where he's unable to engage with you in the way you deserve. He's trying to figure out how to handle his own emotions or how to manage whatever chaos is happening in his world. And that's taking precedence over anything else. This might be the moment when you're thinking, well, if he really wanted me, he'd find a way to make time for me. I get it. And part of that is true. But part of it is also understanding that the pressure to always be on, to always be emotionally available, to always be the perfect partner can be overwhelming. So when a man goes silent, it's not necessarily a reflection of his feelings toward you. It's more a reflection of his ability to show up. He might be working through his internal struggles and doesn't feel ready to share that with you yet. And until he feels like he has a handle on it, he might pull away to sort things out in his own mind. It's important, though, to realize that silence should never be your cue to assume the worst or chase after him desperately. Silence can sometimes be his way of needing space to figure things out. And that's okay. But you can't allow that silence to dictate your worth. You can't let it cloud your perception of yourself or make you question whether you're good enough. Because if you do, you will end up caught in a cycle of seeking validation from someone who is still figuring out how to validate himself. If you constantly find yourself at the mercy of someone else's silence, you need to ask yourself, what is your response to that silence? Are you chasing after him? Are you trying to fill the void, desperately seeking an answer or closure? Or are you standing firm in your own life, knowing that you deserve someone who is ready to meet you halfway, someone who doesn't leave you hanging, waiting for answers? A lot of times, men will withdraw because they want to protect you from the weight of their struggles. They don't want to bring you into the mess they're navigating. They may feel like they're not in the right headspace to give you the attention you deserve. And so rather than risk disappointing you or creating unnecessary tension, they choose silence. They pull back because they know they're not fully able to give you what they want to give. And while that might seem frustrating, it's a form of respect. They know that until they can handle whatever is going on in their own life, they shouldn't be dragging you into it. Now, don't get me wrong. Silence can also be a sign that he's unsure about his feelings for you or that he's avoiding confronting difficult truths. But even in those cases, silence doesn't necessarily mean that the door is closed. It could mean that he's just not in a position to engage right now because he's still processing how he feels or because he's scared of getting too close and being vulnerable. In those moments, it's critical for you to maintain your self-respect and not settle for breadcrumbs or half efforts. You should never be the one who's left constantly questioning whether he's interested or not. His silence shouldn't be the thing that defines your sense of worth. Here's the reality. Men, just like anyone else, are complex. And sometimes their silence has nothing to do with you personally. It's more about where they are in their own journey and what they're navigating behind the scenes. And the truth is, that silence doesn't have to be the end of the story. But here's the catch. You cannot afford to keep waiting indefinitely. You cannot keep holding on to a man's silence and use it as a way to define your value. You deserve clarity, consistency, and effort. If a man truly wants to be with you, if he truly craves you, he will show up. He will make the effort to be present in your life, to communicate, to connect. His actions will speak louder than his silence. So if he craves you but is silent, understand that it might be because he's dealing with something you can't see, his own struggles, his own fears, his own confusion. But don't let his silence keep you in a waiting game. Your worth is not defined by someone else's silence or hesitations. You have a life to live, a future to build, and someone who's ready to appreciate you and show up for you the way you deserve. Let's talk about something that we often overlook in the rush of emotions and attraction. Craving is easy, but showing up is rare. It's something that so many of us miss, yet it's essential to understand if we truly want to understand a person's intentions. It's easy to get caught up in the rush of someone's attention, the flirtations, the compliments, the way they make you feel like you're the only one in the room. These moments, these signals, they can make us feel like we're the center of their world. But here's the thing. Wanting someone is one thing. Actually showing up for them in the way that matters most is entirely different. When you first meet someone, there's an undeniable spark, the excitement of getting to know each other, the thrill of new attraction. It feels exhilarating, doesn't it? It can feel like a whirlwind, and in those moments, it's easy to mistake that intense magnetic attraction for a deep commitment. But we have to slow down and realize that attraction itself isn't a promise, it's just a feeling. And feelings come and go, but the work of building something meaningful, that's the real test. We've all been there, caught in that moment when someone craves your attention, but when it comes time to really show up, they're not there. They're silent. They're distant. They might give you just enough to keep you hanging on, but not enough to build something solid. Now, this is where the difference lies. Wanting someone is easy. It's thrilling, the chase, the excitement, the rush. That's all fun. But it's fleeting. What's much harder and much rarer is showing up. Showing up means putting in the work. It means making decisions that honor the connection you're building. It means being there, not just when it's convenient or when you're in the mood, but when it counts. This is where the confusion happens. Craving, someone can look so much like commitment, the flirting, the messages, the attention, the occasional sweet gesture. But commitment is about consistency. It's about the small, everyday actions that prove that someone isn't just thinking about you in passing, but that they are invested in you in the long haul. So let me ask you, do you want someone who only craves you in the moment? Or do you want someone who will consistently show up for you even when things aren't as easy or exciting as they were in the beginning? You see, when someone craves you but doesn't show up, it's often a sign that they're more in love with the idea of you than the reality of what it takes to be with you. They crave the feeling you give them, the attraction, the validation, the fun. But when it comes time to do the deeper work of a relationship, to stand by you in tough moments, to commit to growth and understanding, they disappear into silence. Why? Because showing up means being vulnerable. It means putting yourself on the line in ways that are far more significant than just feeling good in the moment. And here's the kicker. Sometimes we accept craving as enough. We convince ourselves that the person's attraction is all we need because it feels good. But think about it. How long can craving last without real action behind it? How long will someone's attraction to you keep you fulfilled if they don't back it up with the deeper, more vulnerable steps of building a connection? So not long. That's why it's so important to look at what's actually happening when someone craves you. Are they just sending you texts that make your heart flutter? Are they showering you with attention when it's easy, but pulling back when it gets challenging? Are they silent when you need them the most? Or when it's time for deeper conversations? Because ultimately, actions always speak louder than words. And when someone craves you, but doesn't show up, that's a signal, a message in the silence that you need to pay attention to. When we only focus on the craving, we're often focusing on the surface. It's like looking at a beautiful painting and admiring the color, the texture, the vibrancy. But the moment we step back and realize there's no depth behind it, no real meaning, no foundation, we start to see it for what it truly is, just a display. And a display, no matter how beautiful, can never hold the weight of a long-term relationship. Think about what happens when someone truly shows up. They're consistent. They communicate. They check in when things are hard. They support you even when it's inconvenient. They make sacrifices. They work through their fears, their insecurities, and their doubts because they value what you're building together. They don't run when things get complicated. They step forward. When someone shows up for you, you feel seen, you feel valued, without a shadow of a doubt that they're not just here for the good times, they're here for all of it. The growth, the challenges, the laughter, and even the tears. That's when you know someone isn't just craving you, they're building with you. This is why we can't get lost in the craving alone. We have to learn to see past the surface, past the sweet words and the flirtations. The craving doesn't last unless it's nurtured by real effort, by showing up day in and day out. And if you're settling for someone who just craves you but never truly shows up, you're missing out on the depth and commitment that make a relationship not just fun, but meaningful. It's easy to confuse attraction with depth. It's easy to think that someone who craves you is the one who will always be there for you. But craving is fleeting. It's in the highs, the spark, the moments of intense attraction. But showing up is what creates something lasting. That's the difference. So ask yourself, do I want someone who only craves me when it's convenient? Or do I want someone who will show up for me day after day, no matter what? And remember, you deserve someone who's not just craving you, but who is ready to show up for you in the ways that matter most. It's easy to get caught up in the thrill of someone craving you. It feels exciting, doesn't it? When someone wants you, when they show you that desire, it's intoxicating. You start imagining what could be. You get drawn into the possibility of something real, something that could change everything. But there's one thing we need to remember. Craving isn't the same as commitment. Just because someone feels drawn to you doesn't mean they're ready to take the leap. Desire is an emotion, but commitment is a decision, and these two things don't always line up the way we expect them to. Let's break this down a little bit more. We've all been there. We've met someone who craves us. They flirt, they text, they make us feel wanted, desirable, important. But then when we start looking for consistency, for something deeper, something real, we find silence. Silence can be confusing, even painful, right? It messes with your head. You start wondering what's going on. Why is he pulling back now when he was so forward before? The truth is, the silence often has very little to do with you. In fact, most of the time, it has everything to do with him and what's going on inside of him. It's often fear that holds him back. Fear of vulnerability, fear of opening up too much, fear of not being enough, and yes, fear of getting hurt. Sometimes, when a guy craves you, when he feels attracted to you, emotionally or physically, it's easy for him to get caught in the fantasy of it all. The idea of you is exciting, but the reality of what that might mean long term can scare him. He might start pulling back because he doesn't know if he can give you what you need. And the silence becomes his way of retreating into something that feels safer for him. It's also worth acknowledging that silence can be a defense mechanism. He might not want to show how much he cares, because in his mind, that makes him vulnerable. The more he shows he cares, the more he risks getting hurt if things don't go his way. And so, instead of risking that pain, he retreats. He stays silent. He distances himself. And as much as it hurts you in the moment, this behavior is often a sign of his own insecurity, not a reflection of your worth. But let's be real for a second. There's another reason why he might go silent, and this one stings even more. Sometimes, a guy stays silent because he's testing the power dynamic. This is tricky, but it's an important piece of the puzzle. Think about it. When someone is silent, it creates a gap. And if you're not careful, that silence can lead you to chase after him, to fill that void with attention, to try and win him over. He might be craving you in the sense that he's attracted to you, but the silence is part of the game. He's testing to see if you'll chase him. Will you continue to reach out, to invest, to make yourself available? It's like a dance. The silence can make you doubt, it can make you feel uncertain, and it can even make you question your worth. But here's the thing, you don't need to play that game. You don't need to chase someone who is testing your interest by pulling back. Silence doesn't mean he's unsure of his feelings. It might just mean he wants to see how much you're willing to give without him having to give anything in return. This is where the difference between craving and commitment becomes crystal clear. Craving is easy. It's the thrill of wanting someone, but not necessarily wanting to invest in the effort it takes to build something lasting with them. Craving is emotional, and emotions can change quickly. Commitment, on the other hand, is real. It's about showing up when it's not exciting, when things get tough, when there are challenges. It's about consistency. Craving might come in waves, but commitment is steady. It's consistent. It's built on respect, trust, and the willingness to put in the effort, even when things aren't perfect. And let's not forget that a lot of the time, this silence isn't about you at all. Men often compartmentalize. If you've ever been in a situation where a guy is distant or silent, it's easy to think that it's something you did or that you're not enough. The reality is, he might be dealing with his own personal battles that have nothing to do with you. Maybe he's overwhelmed at work. Maybe he's going through something difficult in his personal life. Or maybe he's struggling with his own self-doubt. We've all been there, right? Feeling like the world is on our shoulders and the last thing we can focus on is a relationship. In those moments, he might pull away, not because he doesn't care, but because he needs space to figure himself out. He might need time to recalibrate, to work through his own issues. And unfortunately, during that time, you're left to deal with the silence, the uncertainty, the doubt. It doesn't feel fair and it hurts, but the silence often has more to do with his internal world than with you or your relationship. Now, here's the big one. You deserve clarity, not guesswork. You deserve to know where you stand. Relationships should never be a guessing game. And if you find yourself constantly trying to figure out what he's thinking or feeling, that's a red flag. Silence should not be a mystery that leaves you wondering where you stand. Healthy relationships are clear and direct. They don't leave you questioning if someone is into you or not. So when a guy craves you but stays silent, it's time to ask yourself some tough questions. Is this behavior something you're willing to tolerate? Are you willing to keep investing in someone who isn't giving you the clarity and respect you deserve? If someone is craving you, they will make an effort to show it. They will make you feel seen, heard, and valued, not kept in the dark.